My name is Hannah, and this is my no-buy year. Hi. So, my little life is absolutely bananas right now. I'm home for a 2-day break in between two back-to-back tango festivals. As many of you know, my main source of income is a small business that I run with my partner, Joe. I make tango clothes, one-of-a-kind pieces for women who dance Argentine tango, and then Joe runs the business side of the business and we sell the clothes. We mostly sell them online, but several times a year, I would say 5 or 6 times a year, we take all of our inventory to festivals and sell them in person. We rent a little booth space at the festival and we vend our wares. So going to the festival itself is not unusual. It's something I've been doing for years. It's an important part of my job. But having 2 festivals back to back, one weekend and then the following weekend, is very rare. In fact, it's something that I've never done before. So we'll see how I hold up during the course of the second one. Joe came with me to Portland, which was the location of the first festival, but he's not actually coming with me to Albuquerque, which is the location of the second festival. I will be on my own for that one. Anyway, it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of work, and being home for these 2 days sandwiched in between 2 festivals is actually giving me an opportunity to film kind of an interesting video. It became clear over the course of the 5 days that I spent in Portland that I had totally overpacked my makeup. I just brought way more than I needed. And also it became clear during that time which kinds of looks I wanted to wear right now and which kinds of looks I wanted to wear at a festival. So now in between the 2 festivals, I have the opportunity to essentially declutter my makeup bag, my travel makeup bag for tango festivals, and I'll be able to leave behind the things that I didn't need in Portland and won't need in Albuquerque, and just take with me a much smaller, more edited, and more practical little kit for use at a tango festival. So that's what I'm going to film for you today, and I hope it will be interesting. Just a side note before we start, I actually put on a look that is the look that I was wearing pretty much every day in Portland, so that when I'm talking about the makeup, because I'm going to film it from overhead, so that when I'm talking about it, you will have a sense of the kind of look that I'm talking about. So I packed a bunch of makeup to do pretty elaborate looks with a bunch of layers of shades and gradient and different lip colors and all of this stuff. But what I ended up doing literally every day of the 5 days that I was working in Portland was putting a single color all over the lid and buffing it almost up to my brows. So a version of my single shadow eye look that I filmed with the shadow from the Jaclyn Hill palette. I'll definitely put that in the cards. It's my go-to eye look using only one eyeshadow. So I laid that look down as a base on all 5 days, but for each of the 5 days I used a different eyeshadow just to give it some variety. And then what I did was I went in with a tiny bit of a darker shadow on the outer corner just to make it a little bit smokier, a little more glamorous. And then on all 5 days, I tapped a much more sparkly shade or glittery shade, or on one day some actual liquid glitter over top of that look just to give it some more dimension and sparkle and glamour. But all of the looks that I was wearing in Portland had this kind of grungy, messy, layered, smoked out sense about them. So that's what I have on my eyes today. For today's eye look, I used, this is my star palette that Wendy sent to me. There are some shadows missing because they're the ones that I took to Portland. But as you will see in the overhead, I recently acquired via another incredibly sweet and generous subscriber who I got to meet in person. So exciting. The mini star palette. So this shadow right here, which is called Orion, it's the kind of burgundy green shifting multi-chrome shadow that Natasha Denona has in this palette. That's also in the mini star palette, and I didn't pack it to take with me initially, but I did have it with me because I took the mini star palette with me. So this was one of the looks that I wore. I have Orion all over my lids and buffed out almost all the way up to my brows in the manner of the all over single shadow eye look that I demonstrated in that other video. And then I used a dark brown in the outer corner to smoke it out, and then I used this really, really glittery olivey golden shadow packed all over the lid. Once again, this is not the exact one that I had with me because the one that I had with me is the one that's down here. But one super weird thing about this palette is that there are these 2 shimmery shadows that look almost indistinguishable from each other. Like they look exactly the same. And when I'm doing the overlay shots, I'll show it to you. I'll swatch them both. I don't know what Natasha was thinking. It's a gorgeous color that I really love. The one down here, the one that's missing from here, Cosmo, is supposed to be more olive and this one's supposed to be more gold, but they're not. They're the same. Anyway, I was able to make the look that I wore at the festival using what's here in this palette rather than using my kit that I packed. But for all intents and purposes, it's the same look with the same shadows. All of this will become much clearer when I'm actually shooting the video. Why are my intros so long? Why can I not make a short introduction to a video? All I am trying to tell you right now, my friends, is that this messy, chromatic, glittery, smoked out, kind of dusky eye look is what I wore in Portland. And then to complement it, I went really, really light with the skin. These events are pretty much a 24/7, 5-day marathon of socializing, some with my customers, some with my old friends, and then there's a lot of overlap between those two camps because a lot of my customers have become friends and a lot of my friends buy and wear my clothing. So I'm there at the booth. I usually have to get there at around 11 in the morning, and then with maybe a short dinner break depending on the day and then depending on the event, I'm there until like 2 or 3 in the morning because there are classes all day, there are dances in the afternoon, and then there's a dance at night that goes late into the night. So I have to put on makeup that will wear well. So a full face of cakey foundation would really not be the thing because it would not be looking that good at 3 a.m. And I also have to wear an eye look that can transition from day to night pretty well. And this is an eye look that does that for me, I feel. It's like a little bit glamorous for day, maybe a little bit toned down for night, but it works for both. And then I also just don't want to look like I'm wearing a lot of makeup because among my friends and my customers, there's an extreme diversity of styles. There's a diversity of the level of glamour that they like to affect. There are a lot of tango dancers who don't wear any makeup at all. It's not really a realm that's only for people who like to dress up or women who are very feminine. It's a pretty earthy, gritty, sweaty, underground dance. So there are a lot of people in tango who aren't glamour pusses, and I don't want to look like a glamour puss myself when I'm interacting with those people. And also I'm not really much of a glamour puss myself. I mean, you guys know that I don't wear a full face of foundation ever unless I'm doing my Poema photo shoots. Today I'm only wearing color corrector and then the slightest bit of spot concealer. I actually do have some blemishes right now because my skin was kind of freaking out in Portland. It was cold, I had been on the airplane, and I've spot concealed them, but not to the point of full coverage. Like you can actually see the redness of the blemishes, which is a little bit rare for me, but that's what I was wearing up there. I just wanted my skin to really look like skin. I would much rather look my age than look like I'm wearing makeup on my skin. I would much rather look like I have blemishes than look like I'm wearing makeup on my skin, especially in the context of a tango festival and the work that I do there. I'm also wearing a very neutral, natural lip. You can't really see product on my lip. There's a little bit of staining, a little bit of color, but everywhere except my eyes, it doesn't really look like I have makeup on my face. And that's what I was doing when I was in Portland, and so that is what I'm going to focus on when I edit my makeup bag to take to Albuquerque. Good Lord, let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Okay, so here's my little travel case that I used. It's from Sephora. I think that they make the same thing in different finishes, like different textures, pretty much every season, so I will link this down below in case this looks like the dream travel case to you. It works pretty well. And in here, it has a space for brushes. It has a space for makeup. Actually, it's the one that says makeup, so I've been using it exactly as it was intended. And then on this side, I keep my skincare when I'm traveling. I took it all out because I'm using it right now during these 2 days, but it fits in there. And then there's a little flat space for things like jewelry. I usually put sheet masks in here and things like Q-tips and cotton pads and stuff like that. But this is the side with which we are concerned today. So I am actually going to go through my brushes as well. I can definitely edit my brushes. I brought way too many brushes with me on this trip, but I'm gonna go ahead and start by taking all of the makeup out of this little space. So this is all of the makeup that I took with me to Portland for my 5-day trip. It was way too much. I'm going to go through category by category for the declutter, separating each category out and whittling it down. I'm gonna start with eyeshadow. So these are all of the eyeshadow type products that I brought with me on my trip to Portland. I was actually really proud of myself when I was packing because I spent some time creating this little magnetic palette for myself. This is the only eyeshadow palette that I initially thought I would bring with me. But the morning before I left for Portland, I was able to have coffee with a beautiful subscriber, Jennifer, and she gave me the Natasha Denona Mini Star palette as a gift. So I couldn't help myself. I ended up taking the Mini Star palette with me on the trip as well. So I ended up with 5 more eyeshadows than I had initially packed. I didn't have time to re-edit this before I left. That was fine. This takes up very little space, but I definitely didn't need all of these eyeshadows with me in Portland. I grabbed my Giorgio Armani eye tint in the color Gold Ashes, and I didn't reach for it once while I was in Portland. This definitely doesn't need to come with me to Albuquerque. I brought one Stila Magnificent Metals Glitter and Glow eyeshadow. This is in Kitten Karma, and I was really glad that I had this with me. I find that the Stila liquid glitters are a really good way to amp up a look, to help it transition from day to night. I like to have a lot of glitter on my eyes during the nighttime at Tango events because the lighting tends to be dim, and super glittery product allows my lids to really sparkle and catch whatever light might be floating around. So this is definitely coming with me to Albuquerque. I think I'll be using it again. The really interesting thing that I learned when I was there was that I didn't need transition shades. I didn't reach for any of these matte transition shades. I just didn't find myself having the time or really the impulse to construct a layered look that starts up at the brows and transitions all the way down to the lash line. And I don't think I'm going to be doing that in Albuquerque either. So I think I can actually lose these transition shades. So both of these matte transition shades came from the Natasha Denona Star palette, the full-sized one. I'm actually going to bring that back out so I can mix and match. So this is Diadem. It's one of my absolute favorite shadows of all time, even though I've only had it for a short while. It goes right here. And it's a really pretty mauve-y taupe color. It's a beautiful transition shade, but I didn't reach for it in Portland and I'm not going to be using it in Albuquerque. This, I believe, is Titania, and again, I'm not going to be reaching for a transition shade like that in Albuquerque. I think I'm going to be going for the buffed out all over the lid shimmer look, the way that I was in Portland. When it comes to matte transitions, I think it's probably a good idea to keep this kind of matte taupe in the palette. This is Bel Air by ColourPop, just in case a look kind of gets out of control and I need to buff a color that kind of matches my skin tone into the edges of it to tone it down. And the same goes for this cream colored shade. This is ColourPop Hear Me Out. The black is definitely important to keep. This is ColourPop Let's Do It. And then the last 2 mattes that I have in here are Earth, which is the Natasha Denona shadow, and this little really deep burgundy color, which is from a ColourPop palette. I used both of these darker mattes on the trip a couple of times to deepen up my outer corner, so I'm gonna hang on to them. Almost all of the shades from the Mini Star palette are actually in my little magnetic palette. So Earth is one of the ones that's in the Mini Star palette. It's this one right here. And I believe that this one out here, which is Polaris, is the shadow that's in the Mini Star palette right here. I didn't bring Atique with me, which is that one right there, but again, that's a color I don't really need, or if I do need it, I have the ColourPop shadow. And then this one right here on the edge is Cosmo, which is that shade right here that I brought with me. The only one that I didn't pack was Orion, this super pretty duochrome, the one that I'm wearing on my eyes today. And curiously, as soon as I got to Portland, I used that eyeshadow to create an eye look. I was really, really happy that I had it with me. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and pop Orion out of the big star palette and put it into my little palette. So now I essentially have the entire mini Natasha Denona Star palette in my magnetic palette. Ideally, I would just take the mini palette because it's so cute and perfect for travel. I was really glad that I had it with me in Portland, but I'm definitely going to be taking this magnetic palette. It has some other shadows in it that I'm sure that I'll use. It has the one blush that I brought with me, which is this Wet n Wild Apricot in the middle, a blush that I've depotted. So I can't leave this palette behind because I need the real estate. I can now leave this palette behind. These are a few more eyeshadows than I'm probably even gonna wear while I'm in Albuquerque. I like to have the diversity, I like to have the choice, but I don't think I need to add in another eyeshadow. Alright, I rearranged them a little bit just for fun. There's not really a super elegant way to fit all of these shadows into this palette, but that's okay. When I get home from traveling, they will all go back into their individual homes. So I'm gonna let you know what these are and what I was using them for in Portland and what I think I'll be using them for in Albuquerque. So this one right here is 24/7 from the Jaclyn Hill palette. I popped it out on a whim right before I left because I didn't want to be without it, and I'm really, really glad I brought it with me. It was the base of my favorite eye look that I did in Portland. This is Supernova from the Natasha Denona Star palette. I did another eye look where I used that as the all-over lid base. This is Orion from the Natasha Denona Star palette. I did a third look where I used that as the all-over base. And then this shadow right here is, I believe, that's a ColourPop shadow called Dragonfly. That is another shadow that I used as an all-over lid color and then built on that. And I think that those are the only four that I used as my base shadows. So we've got 24/7 from the Jaclyn Hill palette, Supernova from the Star palette, Orion from the Star palette, and ColourPop Dragonfly. So those were kind of my four main gigs while I was there in Portland. The matte shadows that I used to do some outer crease work and buff out along my lash line and down on my lower lash line were Earth from the Natasha Denona Star palette. This little ColourPop shadow, I'm not sure what it's called, but I think it's from, wow, look how rich that is, the burgundy color. I think it's from You Had Me at Hello. This shadow right here is ColourPop Let's Do It. That's black I was using. And then I actually didn't use either of these two while I was there, but again, they're kind of just in case. These are the three shades that I was using to deepen up my outer corner and to make the looks smokier. So we've got Earth, that ColourPop shade, and then ColourPop Take the Lead. No, ColourPop Let's Do It, that's what that black is called. And then for intensifying the look, for making it a little glittery and more glamorous, I reached for one of my all-time, if not my all-time favorite eyeshadow. This is from the Galaxy collection by JD Glow, and it's called Unexpected. I was really glad that I brought this with me. It just makes the eyes look amazing no matter what. And then I frequently reached for this one, which is Cosmo by Natasha Denona from the Star palette. I also actually did use this one. This is Polaris from the Natasha Denona Star palette. I reached for all three of those, and then I also made use of this Stila glitter. So there we have Unexpected, Cosmo, and Polaris. So that leaves these two that I'm bringing just in case, but that also leaves this one. This is Midnight Cowgirl by Urban Decay. I really like this shadow. It's another kind of sparkly, creamy one. It's, you know, it's like a shimmery mauve, pale mauve that has some glitter in it. It's a really, really pretty eyeshadow, but it's got some similarities with these three. If I were trying to condense this palette and make it even smaller, I think I could probably lose that shadow. I may not reach for it in Albuquerque, but since there's room for it, I figure I might as well just keep it in here. So that's it for the eyeshadows. These are the ones I'm going to take with me to Albuquerque along with this little Stila glitter. I feel confident that I have everything I need right here. Okay, let's talk about eyeliners. Why did I bring so many eyeliners with me on a 5-day trip? There are 6 eyeliners here and I was only there for 5 days. It doesn't make any sense at all. So these two are both brown. This is the Marc Jacobs Highliner in Brownie, and this is a Rimmel London brown eyeliner with a little bit of sparkle in it. I reached for the Marc Jacobs one several times to put my mole back on and also to line my eyes. I thought it went really well with some of those grungy looks. And I didn't reach for the Rimmel London one, so this can definitely stay behind when I go to Albuquerque. This right here is a MAC chromographic pencil in NC15 NW20. It is a very pale cream colored eyeliner. And I actually was using this, I did use this in Portland, not to line my eyes, but to lighten my lip color. I've been really into a super, super pale, almost concealer lips lip lately, and that's what I used this for. So I definitely want to take it for that reason, but I put it here in the eyeliners because I think that as the days wear on in Albuquerque, there's a chance that I might actually want to use this to line my eyes because I'm probably going to get even more tired and even more tired looking as the festival progresses. I did use this Fiona Styles eyeliner. It's a burgundy color. I did use this when I was in Portland. I really love a burgundy eyeliner. I feel like it makes my eyes look greener. This is a Bronze Ardency In eyeliner, and actually I think this is one that I can leave because while it goes really beautifully with those bronzy looks and those bronzy eye colors, it doesn't do much to define the eye. It's almost like it just extends the bronziness into my waterline. And I really like that for daytime looks, but I'm going for slightly smokier, sultrier looks in the festival context. This is my black right now. It's a little mini of the Urban Decay 24-hour Glide On Eye Pencil. I definitely want to have a black with me. Definitely not going to leave that black behind. So that's just 3, and I'm left trying to decide if I should take this one with me or not. You know, I think I'm gonna want it. I think I'll regret if I leave it behind. I think I'm gonna want to reach for it to complement more than one of the eye looks that I will create with my little custom palette. So I'm gonna go ahead and include this. So these are the 4 eyeliners that I will pack. Okay, let's talk about base makeup and just general, practical, all-around useful stuff. I had 2 concealers with me, Tarte Shape Tape and this Nars concealer. Shape Tape might be able to stay. I'm gonna actually give that a minute. This is my color corrector, the Tint Idole Ultra Wear Camouflage by Lancome. I wear this every day. I'm definitely gonna take that. Brow gel, again, I wear this every day. I only have one. I'm definitely gonna take that. These are the mascara products I took with me. I have my L'Oreal Voluminous Primer Base, which I think really helps to complete those grungy, smudgy eye looks. This is a black mascara. It's a little mini of Better Than Sex, and this is a brown mascara. It's the L'Oreal Voluminous Curved Brush. I actually didn't use Better Than Sex at all when I was in Portland. I used this one more. It's a little bit clumpier, creamier, and it layers better on top of the primer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take that and leave this little mini of Too Faced Better Than Sex behind. This is my Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Pomade in Chocolate. I didn't even think about this the entire time I was in Portland. I dyed my brows right before I went to Portland, so I didn't need anything for them. I just brushed them up pretty intensely every day and left them. And I think that the dye color is going to last me through the time that I'm in Albuquerque. I definitely don't think I need to take this with me. This is a little mini of the Laura Mercier Loose Setting Powder, Translucent Powder. Again, I didn't reach for this at all in Portland. My skin was feeling super dry because I had been traveling. I didn't feel like I needed to set my base at all. I don't think I'm gonna need powder in Albuquerque. I will leave this behind. Alright, so I actually got rid of a number of those base products. I think that their numbers have shrunk by significant enough percentage that I can feel okay about taking Shape Tape with me. Again, I feel like I might get progressively more tired and more busted looking as this festival goes on, so it may be that by the end of it I want something a little bit more intense and full coverage for my under eyes. I think I might not use this, but if I do want it, I'll be really, really glad that I have it. So these will all come with me. So these are all of the cheek and highlighting and bronzing products that I brought with me. This is a category in which I was actually pretty careful the first time around. I did a pretty good job of picking an edited collection of things to bring, but I actually don't think I need to take all of them with me to Albuquerque. So this blush is the only blush that I brought. It's Apricot in the Middle by Wet n Wild. It's kind of a glowy and almost slightly bronzy blush on me because I'm so pale, and I used this almost every day. I'm definitely going to keep this. It'll just go back into my little eyeshadow palette. This is a Nars bronzing and highlighting palette. It's the Board de Plage palette. The main reason that I brought this with me was the mirror. I used this palette every day in Portland for the mirror. I also used the bronzers once, and I also used the highlight once, I think. But the mirror makes it worth it, and because I'm bringing all of these 4 highlights, I think I can actually leave this freestanding highlighter behind. This is Tarte Exposed, and I brought it because I've really been loving it lately because it gives a super, super glossy look on the face, a super, super shiny highlight. But when I put it on in Portland, along with my kind of intense smoky eye looks and my very bare skin, I felt like it was too much. I felt like it made me look made up. It made me look like I had really a lot of makeup on my skin, even though I didn't have a lot of base makeup. It's almost as if the intensity of the highlighter made my skin look cakey. So I wore it the first day and regretted it, and I didn't wear it again for the rest of the trip. So I'm gonna leave this behind, and I will just depend on these slightly more natural, glowy highlighters if I want to highlight my skin while I'm in Albuquerque. I brought these Cover FX glitter drops with me, and I didn't get a chance to wear them, but I would like to wear them. I'd like to put them onto my cheeks to spruce up my looks for the night. I'd like to try them out on my eyes on top of an eye look. I just didn't reach for them, I think because there was so much stuff in my makeup bag that I kind of forgot that they were there, but I'm gonna go ahead and take them to Albuquerque and see if I can make any use out of them. So these are the 3 complexion enhancing products that I will bring with me on the trip. All right, let's talk about lip products. This is an area in which I way overpacked. I just kept thinking, but what if I want an orange? But what if I want a red? And then the reality was that I used very, very few of these products when I was in Portland. I did not rock a bold lip one time. So because I didn't wear a bold lip, I think I can do some serious editing of the bold lips that I packed. This is a Burberry lipstick that Jennifer also gave to me. Oh, it's so pretty. It's called Russet, and the name of the product is Burberry Kisses Hydrating Lip Color. So it's kind of a balmy russet red. This is M Cosmetics Faded Clementine. It's a really stunning lip color, but it's too high impact to go with the eye colors that I was wearing in Portland. I don't think I'll reach for it in Albuquerque either, and I'm going to leave it behind. This is Nars Famous Red. It's one of my most statement red lips and one of my all-time favorite lip colors. But again, I think that any of the eye looks that I'm going to be wearing in Albuquerque will just compete with this. This is the kind of color I like to wear when I don't have much going on my eyes. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave this behind. But I do wanna have a red. I do wanna have a red with me. I think I'm going to go ahead and take this Bobbi Brown crushed lip color in the color Babe with me. It's kind of a pink, but it really reads red on me, and if I would like a statement lip, this will be statement enough for me and won't compete too much with the eye looks. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep that one in my bag, and then I will actually leave this behind. I can't see myself reaching for it. It is really beautiful. I'm excited to get more use out of it when I get back, but because I don't know it that well, because I'm not very familiar with it, I think I will be disinclined to really reach for it again. I sort of tentatively reached for it in Portland and I wore it a little bit, but I didn't feel super confident with it because I haven't had time yet to get to know it. So this one can stay behind and I will be excited to be reunited with it next week. So here are the more neutral lip colors I brought with me. I definitely used my lip plumper. I think I will probably want to have that with me in Albuquerque. I brought 2 lip liners with me, or lip pencils. This is Wet n Wild Bear to Comment, and this is the Artist Colored Pencil by Makeup Forever in the color Wherever Walnut. This is one of my favorite neutral lips and I wore this almost every day. Like, this was my go-to lip, so I'm gonna take that with me, and then I think that this one can stay behind. I did wear my Fenty Beauty Gloss Balm a number of times. It was something that I kind of brought with me in case my lip color wore off and I needed to refresh and I needed my lips to just have a little bit of life put back into them. Tom Ford Indian Rose I think is incredibly beautiful, and I actually did wear this. I wore this and it went pretty well with the neutral eye looks. I was really glad that I had this on the day that I wore it. It was kind of like a more robust version of this one. It kind of has a fall vibe, kind of like a dusky, dreamy, flushed lip vibe on me, and I could see myself wearing it again in Albuquerque. I'm gonna go ahead and keep that in the bag. Nars Het Low is one of my all-time favorite lip colors. I definitely wore it while I was there. It was the first lip color I reached for on the first day. So I think I'm gonna go ahead. Is that just totally ridiculous? This is sort of a skincare product. And then this is also kind of like a refresher product with my one gloss. So that's 4 lip colors for 5 days. Do I need them all? You know, I think I can part with Het Low. I think I can leave this guy behind. I think I will be happy with the 3 of these in terms of lip color. I don't think I will miss this one if I don't bring it. So those are all of the lip products I will pack with me to take to Albuquerque. So I brought way too many brushes. I especially overpacked eye brushes. In fact, I may not have overpacked face brushes at all, but I definitely overpacked eye brushes. I'm gonna sort out the brushes that I actually used while I was in Portland from the brushes that I didn't use. So these are all the eye brushes that I used while I was in Portland. And here's what I did. Every day I took my base shadow, those 4 that I put on the back of my hand, I took one of those, I packed it all over my lid with my fingers, and then I took one of these 2 brushes and blended out the edges. I thought I only had one. I thought I only had this Wet n Wild one, and it's actually the one that I showed in my favorites video. I really love the shape, but I realized later that I've been reaching for these interchangeably and thinking that they were the same brush. This is a Real Techniques brush that has pretty much exactly the same shape as the Wet n Wild one, and the bristles feel exactly the same. They just feel like exactly the same brush. So I don't need to bring both of them. I think I'm gonna go ahead and bring the Wet n Wild one with me and leave the Real Techniques one behind. So I would buff out the edges of my base shadow with this brush, and then I would use one of these 2 Morphe brushes to buff out the edges even further. And I actually think that I'm gonna take both of these brushes because one is a little bit smaller and one's a little bit bigger and fluffier. Then I would use one of these 2 little brushes to pack shadow into the outer corner and to blend it up sort of onto the crease and onto my brow bone in the outer corner. This one is a little pointier pencil brush that I also use on the lower lash line, but it's not quite big enough for all of the work I want to do in the outer corner. This one's a little bit bigger. So I think I'm going to go ahead and keep both of these pencil brushes. They're slightly different shapes and I used both of them for different things. I think I also used this one actually. This is like a slightly bigger and fluffier version of this one. And then this is the little flat brush that I use to pack shadow onto my lower lash line and blend it out on my lower lash line, and sometimes I would blend it out on my lower lash line using this pencil brush. So these are all of the eye brushes that I need for the eye look that I was doing every day in Portland. I don't think I need to bring any of these brushes. Let me take a look at them. So this is my angled brush, which is what I'll use to put product in my brows if I decide to do that. I might bring it just in case. This is the little brush I use to highlight my inner corner, which I wasn't really doing in Portland, but if I decide I want to do that, I'll be really sorry that I don't have this brush. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that. And you know, I think I did use this brush a little bit. This is the brush that I often use to blend a darker shade from my outer corner up onto the rest of my lid. But I probably don't need all 3 of these. I think I can probably replace this with this. It's a little bit more of a controlled brush. So these guys can stay behind, and these guys can come with. These are face brushes. This is the one I've been using for spot concealing since I lost my little tiny Morphe brush that I used to use for spot concealing. I use that every day. That's probably my most used brush. This is my highlighting brush, the Anastasia 23. I also use this almost every day, and I actually used this a little bit for a light application of bronzer when I was in Portland. It worked pretty well. This is the brush that I will use if I decide to wear my Tarte Shape Tape, and I also use this sometimes to buff out my Nars concealer. Definitely want to take this with me. So I brought both of these brushes. They are essentially blush brushes. I think I probably only need one. This is an e.l.f. brush and this is a Wet n Wild brush. I think I like the Wet n Wild brush better for applying that one blush that I brought, the Wet n Wild blush. I'm gonna go ahead and take that one with me. This is more of a targeted blush or bronzer brush. I don't really remember why I brought this with me. I think I was thinking that I might use it for my Laura Mercier powder that I had packed, but I am not taking that powder anymore, and I actually don't think that I will need this brush, so I'm gonna leave this behind as well. These things right here on the left are all of the things that I am going to take along with me to my second Tango festival. And then these things right here on the right are all of the things that I am going to leave behind. They're the things that I don't think that I will miss. And then there are also some eyeshadows that I replaced in the Natasha Denona Star palette that I am also leaving behind. I'm gonna go ahead and put everything back into my little travel case. And that is it. This is so much better, especially with the brushes. It's so much better than it was before. Everything was really crammed in before and overflowing. And this as well is way, way better. It's much easier for me to see what I have. It's much flatter. Everything fits much better. It's much lighter. But I think the most important thing for me is that it's just gonna be easier. It's easier to deal with fewer things, and it's easier to have made more decisions before the trip about what I will and what I won't be wearing. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you are remembering to take extra good care of yourself, because that is what will make you the most effective version of yourself as you do your work.